This is the assignment for MetaTiger. Just completed the new student dialogue, and ours was about the problems of groupthink. Um, I think that our group did pretty well with the discussion. It wasn't really about groupthink so much as it was stereotypes and other things like that. But I think our group did have a really good dialogue. It was a pretty good talk for the majority of the time. There wasn't a whole lot of awkward in between moments. There was pretty much a consistent talk the entire time. Um, there were definitely more active voices that you could tell who was more willing to talk than others. There were probably about 4 or 5 active voices out of the 25 of us that were in there that talked the majority of the time. Um, but for the most part, everybody got at least one good point in. Just some talked more than others. Um, but I the role I played was more one of the ones that talked more than the others. There was, like I said, there was about 5 of us that had the discussion, and everybody else kind of just interjected in between points. Um, as far as this being a component of CU 1000, I think that it more or less is to get us thinking about problems that we're going to face, and hopefully that Clemson will the experience here at Clemson will help us understand how to approach problems like that. And I do think dialogues like this are useful for our experience at Clemson because it gives us more of um, it gives us kind of an idea of how discussions about problems will go in the real world and the more useful ways to go about it. Um, Most of the discussion was centered around groupthink, and um, that's how the conversation pretty much started. It was mostly questions that were asked in the beginning about, you know, had we ever been subjected to a majority rules where we weren't in the majority, and things of that nature. And the discussion was pretty good from there, but it quickly turned into more of a political-ish kind of deal where the only examples people could think of when asked about when majority rule would affect the minority was things like race and religion and things like that, which quickly turned into law and all that kind of stuff. And it pretty much was like that, but it never really was. It wasn't like it stayed a dialogue. It wasn't ever a discussion that turned into a debate because it was more or less people just putting out ideas. And while we all came from different backgrounds, we pretty much ended up with the same idea of everything, which was more in comparison to other generations. Our generation is much less willing to go into a groupthink type scenario, which was really good. And yeah, I think it was a pretty good discussion. Uh, Ultimately, I think that between the voices that we got, I think it was a um, pretty good discussion. I think that the way it was done could have been better. I think that everybody was pretty well informed in the debate or in the discussion, but it veered off the path a lot. Um, like I said, we ended up talking more about social issues that didn't really have a whole lot to do with groupthink in general. But it was still really good discussion, and I think it was a good representation of what we're going to have to know how to do while we're at Clemson and then at grad school and then on into our future careers. It's going to be very important to do what we were doing. Um, so I think it was really good, really productive. There weren't really many. I don't think there was anybody in there that actually stayed silent. So it was a good discussion between Clemson students, um, and I think it turned out really well. Um, like I said, the only thing that I tweak about it is maybe make it more about groupthink. Um, but at the same time, I think it was a really good discussion, really good group between a lot of really good students, and it was a great way representing Clemson, and representing the students that we have down here and the great minds that we have down here. So I think it was great, and that's it. Go Tigers.